Welcome to our setup multiple vNICs on an OpenStack-based CentOS 8 VM tutorial. Sometimes you may need to set up an external internet-facing floating IP (FIP) for an existing OpenStack-based CentOS VM that already has an internal network interface. Because the VM is already being used, you may not be able to get rid of the old internal-facing network interface because data is flowing to it, or the VM needs to remain attached to its current internal subnet for configuration reasons. In these cases, you can add a second network interface tying the VM to an external internet-facing network. This video tutorial will walk you through the 19 steps necessary to add that second network interface. Step 1. Warn your users that network connectivity may be lost during the configuration and that you will need a maintenance window. Then create a snapshot of the VM in case you bonk the setup. Step 2. Add the second external-facing NIC to the VM. You can do it through Horizon Dashboard, but you can also use the OpenStack CLI. In my instance, I will use the OpenStack Horizon Dashboard. I have already created the port prior to making the video. Step 3. Associate a floating IP with the NIC, again either through Horizon Dashboard or CLI. I have already associated the FIP with the secondary port. Step 4. Set up a new OpenStack security group to include the incoming ports your users have requested. At this time, it doesn't hurt to add SSH and all ICMP rules for your own IP address for testing. Remember, generally these requests are to open up the VM to all internet-facing traffic, so exercise discretion when setting allowable ports and port ranges. I have already set up my security groups for those ports. Step 5. Add the new OpenStack security group to the VM. Step 6. SSH into the VM on the existing internal interface. I have done that in my terminal session on the left. Step 7. Check the current network configuration using the command in the documentation. Step 8. You should see the secondary network interface at this point. Copy its MAC address. Our secondary interface is this ETH1 right here, and our MAC address is listed next to the Ether line. Step 9. CentOS 8 Cloud images don't appear to consistently come with /lib/udev/write-net rules. Maybe because they use cloud in it, so we will modify the persistent net rules configuration by hand. Using the commands in the documentation, add an entry for the new network interface, ETH1 in this example. It doesn't appear from our testing that order matters in this file, so ETH1 should be able to be after ETH0 if you're picky about those types of things. What we can do is just copy this line. Drop down, paste it, and then change the ETH0 to ETH1, and then change the MAC address to the one from earlier. If you didn't copy down in your OpenStack Horizon interface, you can click on the VM's name in the Interfaces tab, and you will see the MAC address for the interfaces right here. We are going to save that file. Step 10. Open /etc/network-scripts/ifcfg-eth0, or whatever interface name is currently the main interface. And we are going to edit that file. At the end of this file, we want to add DEFROUTE, all in caps, equals no, with no being in lowercase. We're going to save that one. Step 11. Copy the file you just edited to a new file in the same directory, but append the second network interface's name to the command, eth1 in our case. If you want, you can just copy and paste this and then just change eth0 to eth1. Step 12. Open the new file and edit it. We're going to change the DEFROUTE to yes. Save the file. Step 13. At this point, you should be ready to reboot to ensure the network configuration comes up properly. Confirm that no users are still logged in. If there are users still logged in, send them a shutdown message. Step 14. After reboot, attempt to ping the new IP address. You should receive completed ping responses. Then attempt to SSH into the new address. If you're successful, confirm that the route table is set up appropriately using the command in the written tutorial. If you're unsuccessful, skip to step 16. There is the command to show our default table. Step 15. Confirm that the external-facing NIC is handling internet-bound traffic. If it is, you will know because the FIP will be the IP address that is returned by the command. I can't run it in the tutorial because the way our network is set up, it won't return the FIP. Step 16. If you're not able to SSH into the VM through the FIP, then attempt to SSH in through the internal interface. If you are unable to access through the internal interface, you may have to rebuild the VM. See our VM rebuild tutorial for a full walkthrough of that. If you are able to SSH in through the internal interface, confirm your route table and which NIC is handling outbound internet traffic using ipr-curl iconfig.co. Step 17. If the internal interface appears as the default interface and/or has higher listing on the route table than the new interface, or the IP address that is returned from your curl command gives a different IP address than your FIP or whatever is expected, your VPN IP for example, check that DEFROUTE equals yes or no and your ETH number config files are set appropriately. If this is not the issue, additional debug beyond the scope of this tutorial will be required. Step 18. Once the FIP is up and working, remove the SSH and all ICMP rules from your new security group. Step 19. Notify your users that the VM is ready for use. This tutorial guided you through adding a secondary vNIC and FIP to a CentOS 8 VM. The VM should now be able to send and receive traffic through the internet-facing FIP. Great work! See you in the next video.